There's a lot of mysteries in the Stargate franchise, from the very big ones, such as anything to do with the Furlings, to the small ones, such as the Grace aliens, Mimetic aliens, or the Planet Builders. However, perhaps the most mysterious, and yet least talked about in the Stargate fandom, is the alien entity we saw in the episode Entity. This video is going to be kind of a mishmash between lore and theory, because there's just so little we know about this race. I'm also going to cover events in the episode, so here's your spoiler warning. The episode starts when the SGC sends a probe to the planet P9C372. What's notable about this planet was its address came from the ancient repository of knowledge. When they send the probe through, they see what looks like a very advanced technological world. Something starts making the Malp fly.
Malps can't fly. Apparently they can.
An electrical charge is sent through the wormhole, which forces the SGC to shut down the gate. However, this charge sent some kind of entity through, which invaded the SGC's computers. The rest of the episode involves them dealing with said entity, which eventually escalated when it took over Sam's body. They did get it out of her body by Jack threatening to destroy the entity's homeworld, and Sam had to spend some time inside of a computer, which, based on how she looked when she came back, looked like a nightmare. After this event, the plant was locked out of the dialing computer, and we've never heard from it again. The event itself is referenced at least 3 times throughout SG-1 and Atlantis, usually in reference to a computer virus or possession, but we never learned more about this planet or this race in the shows or any of the extended media. Yep, you heard me right. This time there are no books, no RPGs, no comics to offer some outside information. It's an interesting position we find ourselves in this time, with only the episode to go on for any details about this race. So let's take a few moments to look more in depth at what we gleaned about this race from this episode. First is that since the planet's address came from the ancient repository of knowledge, it's most likely the Goa'uld have not been to this world. Daniel also makes a few comments about how nothing on the planet looks like it came from the ancients or a human culture from Earth, with Sam suggesting that whatever there is now might have come after the ancients left the gate on the planet. As for what is there, something I think is interesting is just how dark the planet seems to be. We've seen video feeds from Malps where the sun is shining, but it's notably darker here, with light only coming from a few sources we see in the video feed. From this and a few other visuals we get, specifically this one, which to me looks like a reactor like from the second Death Star, this leads me to believe that this planet has been turned into some kind of machine world, where the whole planet is covered in machinery, including some parts of the sky, that or the gate has been moved underground. We do get a bit of information from the entity itself about its home and its people, but as Teal'c said,
"The entity has deceived us on several occasions."
The entity is somewhat untrustworthy, but given it did ultimately preserve Sam's mind, I think we can assume most of what it said was true. We learned from the entity that the reason it came through the Stargate was to destroy the SGC, but this was out of preservation, not malicious intent. Radio energy, their words not mine, are poisonous to their race. When the Malp sent out radio waves, it caused a lot of damage. And when it comes to information we know 100%, that's kind of it, to be honest. There's a few things I can speculate about, but that's mostly just my personal observations. We see the entity use terms like I or us, so it is some understanding about individuality versus a collective group. Though weirdly enough, when it first starts talking through Sam, it says this.
The one you're talking about is a person. Her name is Major Samantha Carter.
Then I am Major.
No. No, you're not.
Which implies that it thought that since it was inside Sam, it was her or held her rank. To be honest, this might just be a miscommunication thing between 2 different species. Another point to consider is that it called itself a weapon, which some have taken to mean this being was a weapon sent by its creators. The next thing we know about it is that it wants to live or keep living. The reason it jumped into Sam was because after they tried to kill it the first time, it recognized that Sam was an important person, and they would not terminate it if it was inside of her. It even offers to trade information in exchange for continued survival. And again, that's really kind of it. We don't know anything else. Are they native to the planet or moved there after the gate was placed? Are they connected to the ancients? And probably the greatest, are they a machine race? Now, I know what you're thinking. Of course, this must be a machine race. I can already hear people typing who want to claim that they must be a machine race like the Asurans, built by the Ancients or some other race. But hold on a second, because I have to tell you all something. I kind of lied to all of you. Remember when I said there was no external lore on this race? Well, that's technically not true, as they do have an entry in the Stargate SG-1 Ultimate Visual Guide. In case you don't own it, the same information can be found in the Stargate Lexicon, which can be found on the Richard Dean Anderson website. Keep this in mind because I'm going to talk about it later. The description of the aliens in the book is that they are electrically based life forms, meaning they are not AI. Which sounds kind of impossible, but to be fair, this was Season 4 of SG-1. By this point, we had seen crystal/energy-based life forms, fish people, and insect/crab-like aliens that are invisible to most other life due to being phased 180 degrees outside of view. And Atlantis would establish non-corporeal energy beings which appear as a dense fog. Is life based on electricity really so hard to believe in the Stargate universe? And it does make sense given the comparisons to life as we know it the entity is described as having. The entity is often described with characteristics similar to biological features.
From what I can decipher, sir, it's like a computer program. Incredibly invasive, but as complex as a DNA strand. And it's growing. It's eating more and more memory.
It's obviously fighting to survive.
So do bacteria.
And keep in mind, the entity seems to be constantly expanding into whatever can hold it and tries to live as long as possible, the same way most life does. Though keep in mind, this is just one interpretation. Remember how I mentioned the lexicon and the visual guide go with the interpretation that this race is electrically based life? Well, Fandom and Gateworld seem to go with the idea that this entity was a computer program, with Gateworld bringing up that the entity's creators were a separate race altogether. A while ago when I was on that kick of Atlantis content, someone asked if I could cover this race. I wanted to get back into doing some SG-1 videos, so I agreed, but I just found it so hard to come up with anything to say. I called this race the most mysterious, and that's true, but because of the lack of information, you can't really come to any strong conclusions. For example, I could say this race was made of electricity that built their own civilization after the Ancients left the gate, or I could say they are a race of AI, or that the entity itself was an AI, but the rest of this race was something else. All are kind of equally valid. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's kind of nice to have something in the Stargate universe to sit and ponder on with no clear answer. But while this makes this race mysterious, with room for fun theory making, it also makes it hard to really get into because you know there will never be an answer. Like the Furling one, or what the message in universe was, are big mysteries because of their importance to the world. But given that this wasn't a major episode, I doubt it's one that will ever be followed up on in any media. So this might be the most mysterious, but not the biggest mystery in Stargate. But what do you all think? What are your theories on what the entity was? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, leave a like and subscribe, follow me on my social medias, and remember,
I think it likes me.